Howdy folks, welcome to the Colorado Woodrat channel. Well, now that we've got all the welds done, I need to go back and clean all those up. I want to take the high spots down in preparation for seam sealer. To do this, I'll be using a combination of aggressive flap discs and grinding wheels. After I get all of the extra material removed, I'll go back over everything with the wire wheel just to be sure it's super clean. Then I'll apply a seam sealer just to make sure that there are no ingress areas for water or other weather. I'll be slopping this stuff on in a pretty aggressive manner. It doesn't need to be pretty, it'll all be covered up eventually. Another temporarily aesthetically unpleasing factor is going to be the self-etching primer that I apply to the outside. Since I've gone through and plug welded all of those little areas that previously had bolts in them, I need to go back over it and apply a self-etching primer just to protect it for a little bit longer before I get the whole outside painted. That's a couple of months down the road. I'd mentioned previously that because we live in Colorado, rust isn't near of an issue as it is in other places. That being said, surface rust is inevitable no matter where you live if it's exposed outside. However, because it is just surface rust, I'm going to go over everything with a wire wheel just to make sure it's extra clean before applying that self-etching primer. This will all get sanded back down later down the road. This is just a protector for the time being. The main areas I'm going to focus on are that back panel that I welded in to cover up the air vents, that side panel where I replaced the door, and the areas that I replaced the wheel wells with. This isn't the last of grinding and seam sealing that I'll be doing because I still need to put the roof on, but you'll see all of that in the roof fabrication episode. There's a lot to do, so let's get grinding. Whew, that was messy, but it feels really good to get to this point. It's nice to have everything all sealed up. It may not seem like much of an achievement from an outside perspective, but trust me, it is a much different and much improved way of looking at the inside of that truck. In case any of you are wondering at this point, I am planning on spraying a primer on the inside. I don't have plans right now to cover up that primer with an epoxy paint just because it'll never be exposed. It's going to be completely covered up. It might just be a little bit of overkill. However, before I apply that epoxy primer, I am planning on throwing rust converter on some of those few areas that have a little bit of rust. I'll probably apply rust converter at the same time to those few areas on the outside that need it. I'm pumped to get started on the actual building process of this bad chicken. I still haven't 100% figured out if I'm going to make the doors and the door frame before ripping off the entire roof. My thinking here is I would like to have as little time of open exposure to the inside as possible. But because it's all just metal, it might not even matter. The way that the truck is currently, without a roof, the doors just won't close properly. And the roof that I have designed is taller than the current doors anyway. So even if I were to install a new roof and leave the doors as they are right now, there would be a gap between the top of the door and the new roof that I'm planning on putting on. I'm gonna have to make custom doors for that. If you've got any comments or suggestions as to how I can better go about this, leave them down below. I'd be really curious to hear your ideas. I do have a pretty good idea of how I want things to go, but at this point, nothing is set in stone. If you liked what you saw and you want to follow along with this build, hit that subscribe button. Or don't. I'm not your boss. We'll see you next time for the roof fabrication. Stay awesome out there.